From the Johns Hopkins University Bloomberg Center, the Partnership for Public Service welcomes you to the 24th Annual Samuel J. Heyman Service to America Medals Gala. And now, please welcome Max Steyer, President and CEO of the Partnership for Public Service.
I am so happy to be here. Literally, the Sammys is my favorite night of the year, a celebration of tremendous public servants who improve our lives with their leadership, innovation, and hard work. This year, our 24th, takes place with the world upside down. We were not sure if we would be able to pull it off, but here we are, thanks in no small part to all of you in attendance. Thank you for joining us. We need you. So now, I remember hosting our first Sammys in 2002 in the aftermath of 9/11 and being proud of the incredible people representing our government and serving the American people. But when it came time to plan a second Sammys, I was terrified. How on earth would we find more amazing feds to recognize? Of course we did, and I had the same feeling of awe on Sammys night as we honored that second class of civil servants. I was still nervous heading into year 3, thinking we had surely swept up all the great stories by then. You get the picture. Eventually, I stopped worrying and realized I would never be disappointed because we were celebrating the lifeblood of our nation. And so long as we had an expert civil service addressing our country's challenges, we would always have plenty of great Americans to recognize. And that holds true again this year. This evening's honorees are as remarkable as in every year past. Yet today I'm worried for a different reason, about the future of Sammys and the public servant heroes who make it possible. Indiscriminate cuts to federal agencies, personnel and programs, and moves to politicize the hiring and firing of career civil servants are jeopardizing the effectiveness of our government and threatening our democracy. All federal employees, including our honorees, have been affected by these disruptions. For some, the nature of their job and their ability to serve has been upended. Others have seen their agency closed, their funding slashed, and their programs suspended. Many have been outright fired or pressured into leaving, and even worse could be on the horizon. Amid these challenges, our honorees persevered and accomplished great things wherever they could. And they represent members of the larger public service community who improve our lives. Many of you in the audience are current or former federal employees and past Sammys honorees who have made a huge difference for the people in America and across the world. I want to take a moment to recognize all that you do, and if you are a current or former public servant, please stand for a robust round of applause. I also kind of like the light up because I can see you all too, and a lot of great people. So our honorees' accomplishments are a stark reminder of the services and benefits we will lose if civil servants continue to be traumatized and pushed out of government. Americans need to understand the stakes, and the Sammys is one way to communicate them. The stories we will share demonstrate how government directly impacts our lives and why we all benefit from an expert, apolitical civil service. These stories are also serve as a bridge between our government and those it serves. Our research shows that a lack of understanding about federal employees contributes to low trust in government. Introducing Americans to civil servants through their stories is essential to rebuilding that trust. For nearly 25 years, the partnership has worked towards these goals, recognizing that the health and performance of our government is central to our strength of our democracy. Across 6 presidential administrations, we have trained, recognized, and engaged with hundreds of thousands of civil servants to develop a more responsive and accountable federal workforce. We have championed more than 60 pieces of legislation for a better government. But today, we are shifting our work to meet this extraordinary moment. First, we are providing federal employees with resources to navigate the extreme pressures they are under as they try to meet their responsibilities to the American people. Second, through programs like the Sammys, we are engaging the public about the value of government and what we stand to lose if it is hollow out and politicized. And we are laying out a better path for modernizing our public institutions. And third, we are expanding our work to state and local government. All levels of government face similar challenges, and helping state and local agencies overcome them will benefit Americans and inspire greater faith in our public institutions. Tonight, we will recognize 23 individuals and teams selected from over 350 nominations across 65 federal agencies. If you've seen the Sammys before, you might notice that we're doing something a little different this year. In Gala's past, we recognized winners by category and invited them on stage to receive their medal, often from an agency leader. However, the current environment makes that difficult, and the last thing we want to do is put our honorees at additional risk. So we will celebrate everyone in 3 groupings without asking them to come to the stage and make remarks. The one exception being our Federal Employee of the Year. Yes. Remember when Oprah gave everyone in her audience a car? This will be just like that. Except no one is getting a car, only a medal, and only our honorees. Sorry to get your hopes up. We could not do this work alone, and we thank all of our sponsors and supporters who are listed in this program. A special thank you to our national sponsors, Tom and Andy Bernstein, Bloomberg Philanthropies, Microsoft, Patricia A. and George W. Weldy Jr., and everyone else who has made this possible. Current events have dramatically impacted programs that we have delivered at the federal level for decades. We need your help to advocate for civil servants, engage the public, and support our democracy through better government. Thanks also to the Johns Hopkins University Bloomberg Center and School of Government and Policy for providing this incredible venue for tonight's event. I still got the new car smell. It's wonderful. It's great to see a world-class university like Johns Hopkins launch a new school of government during this crucial moment, and there's no better person to lead it than William Howell. Dean Howell, congratulations on this new beginning. We are excited to collaborate with you. Tonight's MC is no stranger to America or the Sammys. She is a senior correspondent and the former anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. In 2023, she won our Spirit of Service Award for her contributions to journalism, and this is the 3rd time she is hosting the Sammys. No one else has done it more than once, including our very first one in 2002. Move over SNL, only 2 more until she inaugurates our very own 5-Timers Club. We don't have a jacket for her, but her partnership swag is in the mail. Please welcome back news icon Judy Woodruff.
Thank you so much, Max. The 3rd time is a charm. I am so honored to be here again, although I always feel more pressure as an MC than I do as a recipient. Fortunately, we have a wonderful program in store for you tonight. I'm especially honored to be here this year because we know public servants face a tougher environment than at any time in my memory. So I'm especially glad to be celebrating with you the best of the best. The Sammys are often called the Oscars of government service. So I think of tonight's awardees, and you should too, as the Denzel Washingtons and the Meryl Streeps, or for the hipper crowd, the Timothy Chalamet and the Zendayas of our program. Since 2001, the partnership has honored more than 800 public service A-listers, and we have another great batch tonight. The scope of our honorees' work is jaw-dropping. It runs all the way from practical things that matter in our everyday lives, like ensuring food safety, forecasting the weather, and protecting us when we travel to defending our national security and making major scientific and medical advances. So help us spread the word. If you're on social media, use the hashtag Sammys 2025, to share the stories of tonight's winners. You can learn all about them and about their incredible accomplishments online at servicetoamericamedals.org. As Max noted, this Sammys is a little different than in years past. Over the next hour, a star-studded roster of guests will recognize our honorees in 3 groups. One recognizes those who solve long-standing challenges. Another features those who ensure that government works better for all of us. And a third showcases those who innovate for a better future. Each honoree will stand to be recognized as their group is presented. We'll also meet this year's Federal Employee of the Year, an individual who exemplifies the highest attributes of public service. So now, without further ado, let's meet our first group of honorees with a quick video.
At its heart, public service is about solving problems, really big problems, the kinds of things that don't have overnight answers but make a huge impact on all of our lives. Like how to treat people suffering from debilitating diseases, or protect communities from environmental disasters, or make critical medications cheaper and easier to access, or keep first responders safer. And taking on those big challenges requires a lot of skills, ingenuity, innovation, collaboration. But what it requires most is persistence. Problems like these often evolved over decades, and they can take decades to solve. And that's where dedicated career federal employees come in. They aren't motivated by politics or by the desire to become rich and famous. They're motivated to solve these huge problems, the ones that keep mere mortals up at night. And they do it, sometimes bit by bit over many years, so that all of our lives are safer, healthier, and more prosperous. Just imagine a world where we didn't develop new ways to protect crops from pests, or make our highways safer, or work to advance America's long-term interests around the world, or invest in long-range scientific research that could yield untold benefits. Yeah, I don't want to live in that world either. And thanks to incredible public servants like the 2025 Samuel J. Heyman Service to America Medals honorees, we don't have to.
And now, to recognize our first group of honorees, please welcome to the stage Partnership President and CEO Max Steyer and former Federal Customer Experience Lead and 2024 Sammys winner Amira Boland.
Thank you, Judy. I have big shoes to fill for this segment. Former NIH Director Francis Collins was supposed to be here, but he's unfortunately under the weather. And in the spirit of good medicine, Dr. Collins is resting up, so you get me instead. So we thank Francis for his years of dedicated public service and for his steadfast support of the Sammys. Amira and I have the privilege of recognizing a group of 8 outstanding public servants. They have solved serious challenges, and their expertise and persistence have made the world a better place. Please hold your applause until the end. Honorees, please rise when your name is called and remain standing. Thank you.
During a 25-year career, Dr. Laura Cheever, formerly of the Health Resources and Services Administration, helped move HIV from a death sentence to something more akin to a manageable chronic disease. She headed the $2.6 billion Ryan White HIV/AIDS program, which provides care to roughly 500,000 low-income Americans annually. She also helped scale the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, or PEPFAR, by facilitating the availability of medicines to 1.4 million people overseas. In 2023, 90% of those served by the Ryan White program were virally suppressed, enabling them to live longer, healthier lives.
Here's another health story, but this one involves cotton. At the Department of Agriculture, Johnny Jenkins enabled the expansion of the $21 billion U.S. cotton industry by developing BT cotton, a variety that is resistant to several key pests and today accounts for 90% of U.S. cotton acreage. During his 64-year federal career, Johnny also developed a fire-resistant cotton variety as well as cotton lines that are used to produce healthy cooking oil.
Now let's head overseas. At USAID, Kathleen Kirsch helped ensure that millions of Ukrainians have access to heat, electricity, and water amid Russia's ongoing attacks on Ukraine's energy sector. Under Kirsch's leadership, the U.S. delivered thousands of pieces of critical equipment that sustained Ukraine's energy flow and enabled emergency response. And her role was key in scouring the world to identify and acquire materials needed for critical infrastructure repairs. While massive cuts have derailed USAID, Kathleen is still powering Ukraine, and we thank her for continuing this life-saving work.
We also have Alexander Marangidis is protecting housing in a different way. At the National Institute of Standards and Technology, he focuses on how to prevent and combat fires that break out in communities bordering natural unoccupied land, areas that comprise about 1/3 of all housing units in the United States. His findings are informing a new methodology that is being used to retrofit housing and update building codes to save lives and property.
And speaking of saving lives, Pavan Pirugu revolutionized Department of Transportation technology to make our roads safer. He spearheaded a digital platform that has reduced commercial vehicle inspection times by 40% and will save millions annually. He also made it easier for examiners to downgrade ineligible drivers in near real time and modernize DOT's registration system to simplify compliance and prevent fraud. So the next time you're on the road, be sure to honk in honor of Pavan.
And while you're at it, please honk for these honorees too. At the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Christina Ritter, Laura Strawbridge, and Daniel Hyder oversaw the first ever negotiations between Medicare and pharmaceutical companies to lower prescription drug costs. In 2026, the price of the 10 most expensive and dispensed drugs in the Medicare Part D program will drop, saving at least 9 million enrollees $1.5 billion on medications that treat serious disease. The lower prices could also save the government upward of $6 billion. More drugs will be selected for negotiation in 2027 and 2028.
And here's another great team that we will all benefit from this summer. At the National Weather Service, Michael Stratemeyer, Chad Kaler, and Mark Laufenblein developed a sophisticated new map that provides a 7-day forecast of possible heat risk in specific locations. Heat is the leading cause of weather-related death in the United States, but now the map is being used by news and weather channels and by operators of parks, schools, and venues to help Americans stay cool.
Our last honoree is Susan Hsu, and she's at the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. Susan is also protecting people from heat. She created a more protective glove for over 1 million US firefighters and set safer weight limits for their breathing apparatuses. Separately, she developed a sensor that alerts healthcare workers to mask leakage in real time. Thanks to Susan, these public servants can breathe a little easier, literally, while performing life-saving work. Let's give all the honorees in this group a gigantic hand. Tremendous work.
So now it's time to recognize another great batch of honorees, public servants who ensure that the government works for you. Let's learn more about them right here.
Here's a simple question. Who is government for? The answer is both obvious and profound. It's for you. It's right there in the name, public service. Millions of career civil servants working in communities across the country are making your life safer, healthier, and more prosperous. How incredible is that? Just think about it. Let's say you're having an issue filing your taxes. A federal employee is there to help. Want to renew your passport? A team of public servants made it easier for you. What about ensuring safe and disease-free food? Yep, lots of federal employees working on that too. It's an idea as inspiring and revolutionary as it was almost 250 years ago. A government we fund made up of people just like us, existing to serve our collective interests and meet our individual needs. And here's something even more amazing. For all the visible ways our government improves our lives, there are tons more ways we don't see. All that nitty-gritty inside baseball stuff that doesn't get the headlines, but makes sure that our government has a strong foundation. That's why we have federal workers doing things like making sure that government payments are secure, accurate, and timely, that our tax dollars are spent wisely and lawfully, or that our justice system remains fair and impartial. So here's to the 2025 Samuel J. Heyman Service to America Medals honorees, who go to work every day thinking about you and how to build a government ready to meet your needs.
Did you notice how good looking all these people are who work for the federal government? And now, to recognize our second group of honorees, please welcome two dedicated public servants, former White House Chiefs of Staff Jeff Zients and Dennis McDonough.
Good evening. As former White House Chiefs of Staff, we relied on public servants like the ones here tonight to keep America running. Our next honorees keep public services working, make sure our tax dollars are used wisely, and help deliver the essentials we rely on every single day. In a nutshell, they keep their eyes fixed on the government's North Star, the people. Please hold all applause until the end. Honorees, please rise when your name is called and remain standing.
They're the 9 most frustrating words in the English language. Please hold. Your call is very important to us. Now, thanks to Maya Breetsius at the IRS, taxpayers are hearing them terrible words less frequently. She devised a system that staffs call centers based on a call volume trends, and she led an effort to consolidate IRS customer service data into a single platform, enabling representatives to see taxpayer information in one place. Thanks, Maya, for making calls to the IRS a little less, shall we say, taxing.
African swine fever has spread across Europe and Asia during the past decade and could devastate the U.S. pork industry if it reaches this country. At USDA, Lydia Carter is ensuring that that doesn't happen. Working with government regulators, pork producers, and others, she developed a pilot program that sets standards around preventing and detecting the disease for most of the country's swine herds. Today, this initiative is on the verge of being codified as an official USDA program.
Like calling the IRS, renewing your passport used to be a real chore. But now it's as easy as tracking a package or paying an electronic bill. That's because the State Department's Luis Coronado Jr. and Matt Pierce led the development of the first ever online passport renewal system. As of May, more than 2 million Americans had used the new system to renew their passports in record time, making this months-long wait for this critical document a thing of the past.
At the Justice Department, Shane Harrigan has spent 37 years fighting the bad guys. This is real superhero stuff. Just listen to who he has led investigations of. Associates of 2 9/11 hijackers, Colombian cartel members, traffickers of illegal firearms, individuals who committed hate crimes, and members of foreign terrorist organizations. Have you ever noticed how Shane and Superman are never, ever in the same room together? Well, now you know why.
Renata Mescal and Linda Sharrow are two more superheroes. At the Department of Treasury, they used emerging technology to prevent and recover a record $7 billion in fraud and improper payments last year, up from roughly $650 million in fiscal year 2023. Renata and Linda's efforts have helped more than 60 federal programs verify payee eligibility, identify and identity and account details, while also enabling state and federal agencies to reduce fraud involving Social Security, veterans benefits, unemployment insurance, and more.
And now to wrap us up, here's our good friend, Josh Bolton, former Chief of Staff for President George W. Bush, who will recognize the last two honorees in this group.
Good evening, everyone. I regret that I can't be there with you in person tonight to honor and celebrate some truly extraordinary public servants. Now, more than ever, our nation depends on the unwavering commitment, integrity, and patriotism of dedicated individuals like these, whose work strengthens our institutions and uplifts the lives of every American. I'm proud to join all of you in thanking each of them. Now, let's meet two more of tonight's honorees. Yakov Pachepsky and Moon Kim of the Agriculture Department are ensuring our food is safe long before it reaches the kitchen. Yakov employs drones to monitor farm irrigation ponds for evidence of potential pathogens. Moon's research has been used to develop and commercialize handheld scanners that detect pathogens on food, utensils, and other surfaces in processing facilities. Our next three honorees, Chris Pasquale, Heather McCormick, and Alex Musburger at the Small Business Administration, have led teams that returned over $1.2 billion in stolen COVID-19 relief funds to the American taxpayer. They cross-checked loan applications with criminal history records, examined tax documents, combed through IP and email address records, and probed bank statements. As a result, Congress expanded the statute of limitations for fraud on SBA loans to 10 years, giving investigators more time to recover taxpayer dollars. Congratulations to these well-deserving honorees. Your exceptional service inspires us all. Thank you, and continue to enjoy what I've long considered DC's best night of the year.
Thank you, Josh, and thank you to all these remarkable, amazing public servants. Let's give them a round of applause.
Please welcome to the stage the inaugural Dean of the Johns Hopkins School of Government and Policy, William Howell.
Good evening. I am William Howell, the Dean of, well, you just heard it, from Johns Hopkins New School of Government and Policy, and thank you for joining us. We're delighted to host the Sammys this year at the Hopkins Bloomberg Center, our new home in the heart of the Capitol. The Bloomberg Center was created to be a nexus between academia and public innovation, and through this beautiful facility, we aim to connect research and policy, educate the next generation of civic leaders and innovators, and convene a diversity of viewpoints. We hope you'll come see us often. You can scan the QR code behind me or follow the Hopkins Bloomberg Center on social media to see what's happening in the building. The people in this room are exactly the group that we at Johns Hopkins and the School of Government and Policy are eager to learn from and to engage and collaborate with. And I think tonight's awardees are making it obvious why. And now I'd like to welcome back to the stage Judy Woodruff.
Thank you so much, Dean Howell. So, how are we doing so far? Amazing, amazing awardees. Now it's time to meet our third group of honorees. These are our government space, tech, and computing masterminds who are solving the problems of tomorrow so that we don't have to face them. I would say more, but this video is going to do a far better job.
Here's a fact you probably didn't know. Our government is a future-focused engine for change. Yep, you heard that right. The federal government is on the cutting edge. I'll give you a minute. Right now, there are teams of career civil servants working across the country to lay a foundation for tomorrow, charting new paths, achieving technological firsts. We need a federal government built not just for today's problems, but looking ahead to the challenges of tomorrow, who wake up every day thinking about how to change the future for the better and doing the incredible. Things like building rockets to go to the moon and satellites to improve weather forecasting, or scooping up rock samples from asteroids that are changing our understanding of the universe. And all this innovation isn't just up in space either. Down here on Earth, these public servants are building the world's fastest supercomputers. They're helping wine growers use less water. Hey, I'll drink to that. They're using AI and next-gen tech to keep our energy systems safe. They're finding new ways to get the materials that power the batteries that power, well, pretty much everything. And that only scratches the surface. Across government, federal employees are making advances in veterans care, technology, transportation, medical care, disaster preparedness, you name it. This pioneering work, which makes all of our lives better, can only happen with the resources and expertise of the federal government. Thanks to forward-looking public servants like the 2025 Samuel J. Heyman Service to America Medals honorees, the federal government is actually cool.
And joining us tonight to recognize this group of honorees will be Sean O'Keefe and Jerry Ma. Now a professor at Syracuse University, Sean served as a presidential appointee in 4 different positions, including Secretary of the Navy and the Administrator of NASA. He is also a partnership board member. Jerry is the former Chief AI Officer of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. He won the 2024 Sammy's Emerging Leaders Medal for developing advanced technology that is transforming the government's patent review process. Gentlemen, welcome.
Good evening. We are so honored to recognize this group of innovative public servants. Honorees, when your name is called, please rise and remain standing so everybody can get a feel for exactly what you've accomplished. Jerry?
Thanks, John. Before I jump in, I just want to say how excited I am to be back at the Sammys. Being honored last year was a thrill, and I'm so grateful to be able to share some amazing stories with you this evening. So without further ado, at the Department of Energy, Mary Ann Alvin leads projects that produce rare earth minerals from coal waste. Her initiatives recover high-purity materials for use in the magnet, battery, and semiconductor industries, and are helping to remediate waste sites and legacy mining across the country. The United States currently imports most of its rare earth mineral needs to produce military aircraft, smartphones, medical devices, and more. So this is a truly big deal. Mary Ann has also been keeping my old agency, the US Patent and Trademark Office, rather busy. She holds 28 technical patents and is putting the US on the path to metal self-sufficiency. Congratulations.
NASA's John Blevins led an effort to send a spacecraft to orbit the moon in 2022. That opened the door to land on the lunar surface when it's planned for 2027, and eventually create the first lunar space station. These missions will prepare humans for a possible future trip to Mars and enable us to acquire ice that can be purified into drinking water and refined into hydrogen fuel. Now, John was an engineer in the auto industry before joining NASA, but he decided to trade in the car for a super rocket. And boy, are we ever glad he did.
And speaking of NASA, remember the movie Armageddon, where a team of astronauts land on an asteroid hurtling toward the Earth? Well, thanks to Rich Burns, this is no longer the stuff of science fiction. At NASA, Rich managed a project that put an unmanned spacecraft on a non-threatening near-Earth object and returned the first ever asteroid sample back to our home planet. The sample contained organic material that is already yielding clues about the origins of life on Earth. To locate a landing site for the spacecraft, Rich relied on Queen guitarist and astrophysicist Brian May. No word if the team played "We Are the Champions" upon touchdown.
Here's another cool technological feat. For decades, the United States has used computer simulations to maintain the safety and effectiveness of its nuclear stockpile. Now we'll do so using the world's most powerful supercomputer. With the industry leaders, the Department of Energy's Tu Huang led the development of El Capitan, a machine that simulates nuclear explosions with unprecedented levels of detail and predicts the aging effects of nuclear weapons. The computer can perform 1.742 quintillion calculations per second. And it's safe to say that would probably beat any of us on an online chess game, that's for sure.
And at the Agricultural Research Service, Kyle Knipper is helping California farmers use less water to grow healthier crops. Kyle's satellite-based models measure evapotranspiration, try saying that 10 times, the evaporation or release of water from soil and plant surfaces to provide growers with precise information about how much water their crops truly need, enabling better irrigation scheduling. This new technology would save almond growers, for example, 120,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools worth of water and has already reduced water use by up to 25% on some vineyards.
Michelangelo Leon of the U.S. Space Force also developed new satellite technology. Leon's weather system follow-on microwave satellite will enable the United States Armed Forces to better predict meteorological changes, including sea surface winds, measurement of sea ice, snow depth. That affect missions around the world. Today, we're safer and stronger thanks to his critical work.
And last but certainly not least, at the Department of Energy, Raishu Wright leads a team that develops sensor technologies and machine learning methods to provide early warnings of failing pipelines, electrical grids, bridges, and other critical infrastructure. Developed with partners in academia and industry, this technology will help reduce power outages and pipeline leaks that annually cost the US economy around $150 billion and contribute to greenhouse gas emissions, respectively. Roy Shu is also challenging Marianne in the Who Has More Patents contest. She holds 10 pending and awarded ones from my very own former agency. How about a big round of applause for this incredible group of public servants?
Thank you, Sean, and thank you, Jerry. And congratulations again to these remarkable winners. Let's give them another round of applause. And now to help us recognize our 24th Federal Employee of the Year, please welcome two people who do not need an introduction, two, not one, but two former Secretaries of the Treasury, Timothy Geithner and Janet Yellen.
So great to be here. So great to be here with Janet. That's such a privilege for all of us. We're here to recognize Dave Liebrick as Federal Employee of the Year. And of course, in doing so, we also pay tribute to the millions of Americans who serve their country as civil servants. Janet Yellen and I both had the privilege of working with Dave Liebrick, as did 9 other Secretaries of the Treasury, serving presidents from both parties over more than 3 decades. Dave is an outstanding public servant. He is exceptionally talented, a master of his craft, a person of the highest integrity. He was trusted with the vital role of protecting the integrity of the payment system that millions of Americans depend on, and in a sense, the entire global financial system depends on. In honoring Dave, you are honoring one of the foundational strengths of American government, a tradition in which talented people devote their careers to trying to bend the arc of policy toward competence, to defending the public interest, to serving as a check on damaging ideas, and to trying to talk our leaders into better ideas. It's about defending and reforming. It's noble work. Sometimes you're defined by what you achieve, and sometimes by what you decide not to do. I'm honored to be able to celebrate Dave and to congratulate him on a remarkable career.
Good evening. I'm immensely pleased to be here tonight to honor someone I deeply respect, David Liebrick, this year's Federal Employee of the Year. Dave has been a quiet force at Treasury for nearly 40 years. He started as a presidential management intern and rose through the ranks to become our Fiscal Assistant Secretary, the highest-ranking career official at the department. And that title doesn't begin to capture his impact. Dave oversaw trillions of dollars in payments and collections each year. When the pandemic hit, we faced an urgent need to deliver economic relief, and it was Dave who made it happen. Just 8 days after the CARES Act was signed, 80 million payments went out, an astonishing feat. And under the American Rescue Plan, his team issued most of 170 million payments within 24 hours. Dave also led the effort to distribute the expanded child tax credit, and that helped cut child poverty in half. And he spearheaded an anti-fraud initiative that's already saved taxpayers billions. What I admire most is how Dave leads, with humility, steadiness, and deep commitment to public service and to his colleagues. He doesn't seek the spotlight. He just shows up, does the hard work, and makes government better. He defines distinguished public service. His vision of a more responsive, transparent, and effective Treasury became our reality. Dave, congratulations. You've made a lasting difference for the country, and it's a privilege to celebrate you tonight. Now, let's hear a bit more from best-selling author Michael Lewis.
Every organization needs a good account manager, and the federal government is no different. Every year, trillions of dollars flow through hundreds of government agencies to ensure we receive essential public services and the nation's finances are stable. For more than a decade, Dave Liebrick oversaw the essential functions of government, ensuring that millions of people, including Social Security recipients and veterans, were paid each month. Thanks to him, funds owed to the government were collected, and the financing operations of the government were executed flawlessly. Dave is the quintessential public servant, hardworking, mission-focused, and fiercely nonpartisan. A Harvard graduate, he chose Main Street over Wall Street, joining federal service as an intern in 1988 before going to work under 11 different Treasury secretaries. As the senior career official at Treasury, he managed the disbursement of more than $6 trillion and the collection of more than $5 trillion annually. He was also responsible for tracking when the government would run out of money, making him a pivotal player in debates over the debt ceiling. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Dave oversaw the delivery of more than 480 million stimulus payments. And in 2023, he spearheaded a program that recovered a record $7 billion in fraud and improper disbursements. In January, Dave left the government over ethical and legal concerns raised by requests to intervene in the payments process and gain access to highly sensitive systems and information. This was an admirable display of principled leadership, of bravery, something he exhibited throughout his career. Dave, congratulations on all your achievements. I am delighted to recognize you as this year's Federal Employee of the Year. On behalf of us all, thank you for holding the government's checkbook.
Dave, thank you for all you have accomplished.
Congratulations, Dave, on being nominated, being named the 2025 Federal Employee of the Year. Please come up and accept your award.
So thank you very much. And I think first I want to make sure I thank my wife, Susie, because first of all, she deserves to be thanked first. And secondly, that if I didn't thank her, I wouldn't be worthy of this award or any other. I met Susie when we were both in Harvard Yard, when we were both serving as resident advisors, proctor in the local lingo. And so this may sound to many of you like the love story, if you can remember that reference. She, I think, deserves a lot of things, which is most people really don't know what we do in fiscal. Not so with Susie. She had to live the late nights, the weekends, learning all about fiscal. And she's such a good spouse that she was reading the paper 3 years ago, and she said, and reading about the Sammy Awards. And she said, "You deserve one of those." And I said, "Well, I don't think so." And she goes, "I think you do." Well, here we are. I think she was right. So I think she was probably right. I should also mention that we raised two very nice boys, of whom we're both very proud. They're both single, by the way, if you, so I'm sure they would be very happy that I mentioned this. They're going to find out when I happy this. Okay. I'd also like to thank Secretary Geithner and Secretary Yellen for the kind introduction. I had the privilege to work with both of them and the honor both with them and for them. You know them both for their tremendous accomplishments and the really great public servants that they have been and are. I know Tim Geithner a little bit differently. He and I rose through the civil service together. Tim, and in fact, Tim, you probably don't remember this, but in a transition between Deputy Secretary Newman and Deputy Secretary Summers, I worked for a period of time for Deputy Secretary Summers, and it was during the Mexican peso crisis. And I got to watch Tim tell Larry Summers he was wrong on occasion. Now, that's a pretty remarkable thing. Now, Tim, I checked this out, by the way. I want to make sure I get this right. You became Secretary of the Treasury on January 26, 2009, and served for 1,461 days. Now, I checked this. It took me until January 20th, 2025 to become acting secretary, and I only lasted 8 days. Has been widely reported, I had the opportunity to show similar courage. And Tim, as you may have heard, things didn't turn out as well for me as they did for you. But I am confident that we as civil servants did the right thing. It is important to exercise principled leadership, make difficult decisions, have the courage and conviction to stand behind those decisions, and be accountable and ultimately prepared to accept the consequences of those decisions. I also want to thank Max and the partnership. So much of what we do in the public sector goes unnoticed and unrecognized. In fact, most of my career was spent trying to be unnoticed. And I think I heard Secretary Yellen at a going away one point say something to the effect of, hey, your measure of success is people don't know you and don't know your name, and that's sort of unfortunate, but that's in some ways a lot of a civil servant. And so also the partnership has done so much to elevate the good work that goes on every day and to make public service attractive. In that sense, while I am honored to receive this reward, many, many others throughout government are worthy of recognition, as we saw in what was really quite a remarkable set of accomplishments by other civil servants. I've had a wonderful career as a civil servant, and I'm quite proud, actually quite fortunate to say that I am a public servant. In preparing for today's event, the partnership had asked me to put together some pictures that you saw on the screen there, and I just had, you can't believe what a remarkable career I had. In no other profession would I have been able to do the things that I was able to do and serve with the people that I served with and work on the important issues of the day. They didn't show the picture of me in Fort Knox with the gold. I will point out to you that it really does exist. It's there. I want to make sure you're aware of that. I got a chance to be a part of a technical assistance team that went to Albania to help set up the Ministry of Finance's front office when the communist regime fell in Albania. I've got to tour aircraft carriers because fiscal actually provides payment cash services to the military. I'm actually an honorary admiral in the Nebraska Navy. Now, Nebraska doesn't have a Navy, but I am an honorary member of that. Just so many neat experiences that I really am very, very fortunate to have been able to do that. And I've actually had a chance to work, as you saw, with some of the most important figures of the past 35 years, Democrat and Republican, and worked on some of the most important issues of the day. And I'll again just say again, where else could I have had a career like that? And it really is quite remarkable. I want to take a second to focus on one of those experiences. I know it was referenced here at the beginning. At the onset of the pandemic, Secretary Mnuchin walked into the Secretary's large conference room, and at that point, unemployment claims were soaring, the economy was reeling, the GDP was collapsing, and he explained that we had the task of issuing economic impact payments. And he looked down to the table, he said, Liebrick, you're in charge of getting out those payments within 2 weeks. Now, we had never done anything like this ever previously, and this was quite a shock. But he was quite serious, and how I realized he was quite serious, and he subsequently said, and I kid you not, no one can sit within 6 feet of Liebrick because we can't afford for him to get COVID. And I kind of thought he was kidding until he walked into a subsequent meeting and saw me talking to another senior official, a political appointee, and said, you need to move away from him. But I think this is really important about the role of civil servants and political appointees. I partnered with really a wonderful person named Dave Cotter, who was the Assistant Secretary for Tax Policy, a political appointee, and he and I partnered together and working with the Bureau of the Fiscal Service and the IRS, were able to meet Secretary Mnuchin's mandate and issue over 160 million economic impact payments over a 5-week period. We learned a lot from that experience, and we later rounds, lessons we applied to later rounds of the EIP, as was mentioned recently, and to the child tax credit. something that was very important to Secretary Yellen. The IEP has helped avert an economic and humanitarian crisis, and the child tax credit really significantly reduced child poverty. And let's pause and reflect on this for a moment. Where else, what we see here is career civil servants and political appointees working hand in hand to make the lives of our citizens better. And as I got to say proudly, and what you will hear civil servants say across the government, we made a difference. So let me close by thanking the partnership again. I grew up in Indiana, and I love to play basketball and was fortunate to coach my boys. And we had a saying, you never leave on a miss. But with this award, I hope I can say I didn't leave on a miss.
It has been a pleasure to join all of you tonight to celebrate the best of government. Champions like all of you in the audience are what make the Sammys and the Partnership for Public Service possible. We want to thank you for your support, especially during this important time. For current and former civil servants, the Partnership's Fed Support Hub is a central resource for information on the changing federal landscape, federal employment topics, and navigating career transitions. Visit fedsupport.org. Good night, take care, and we hope to see you all again next year. And again, congratulations to all of our awardees.
Thank y'all so very, very, very much. We're going to do a little more, another one as y'all, make your ways out. Thank y'all so much for having us. Here's a little song we wrote about pig farming and, and making wine. So, they go together, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Back before Stag's Leap in 1976, back before 1 acre cost $3.6 million, when Yountville and Sonoma were hazelnuts and hay, back before the Pinot and God's own Cabernet.